All right, we're here at the United Conference, and this will be releasing on the Principals Podcast, which is super cool. I'm Danny Bauer, and I'm doing, I guess, a podcast takeover with two incredible guests. I have Dr. Shelby Calabrese and Dr. Alejandra Perez as well, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
good to see you both coming from Houston ISD. So shout out Houston, shout out Texas. And where I'd like to start, you were telling me that you had a talk here at the conference about a 4-part framework for newer principals and teams. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Perez and I have been a team together for a couple of years now, and I'm starting my third year as a campus principal. And, you know, we work at a very high performing school. And upon entering a couple of years ago, we noticed that there was just a lack of systems that were really clear. And so, you know, we kind of started working together and established these 4 crucial steps in really building a strong team, no matter what your experience and background is. And so we think first, you know, it is important. Everything's based around relationships and trust and connection and transparency, but really establishing your leadership team. And that goes beyond just her and I. We can't do it all. So we have to trust people and empower others to, you know, go out and lead a lot of this work with their grade levels. And so really establishing that team. And then from there, that team helps you build that culture. And that starts with the hiring process even. You know, we send, sometimes her and I don't even go to job fairs. We send some of these other leaders to job fairs to be the face and to help us recruit staff for our campus. And like I said, the systems are really crucial. A system for everything.
For every single thing.
Everything. We're constantly coming up and, you know, kind of revising those as things evolve and change and district needs change. And we stay true to our, you know, our shared values and our core beliefs, but really just building these systems. And then last, you know, you have to give the credit where it's due. And so it's hard work and it's not just us doing the work. And so, you know, it could be something small as a shout out, or I toss out baseballs for the staff MVPs for the month. Okay. And so, yeah, those are the 4 main steps that we think are really crucial in forming a strong team.
So if I hear you right, I guess sort of like trust, relationships, empowerment. I got culture, systems, and recognition. Is that basically the 4 parts?
Yeah, that's right. In a nutshell.
Cool. So, you know, you mentioned systems, which I understand why they're crucial and foundational to run an effective building. But I think they could be a bit like nebulous or vague. Like what is a system? So can you break down a bit about what works for you on campus, like system wise?
Absolutely. So we have, for example, a system for whenever we are engaging in the hiring practices or even the leadership team. When we're building that team, essentially, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
It's okay. You're doing great.
All right. So for the leadership team, we do go through a whole process. Just to give you an example, we begin with a survey that we do provide for the teachers to the entire staff around April or March. It's a survey they engage with a variety of different questions as to what they're looking for in their team, how can they support, and they can even nominate different team leads for that position itself. Then we go ahead and as a team, we review all of their responses and we determine who would be the best fit for that team based on the responses that we got from the teachers and staff. Then we invite the teachers, we show them a contract. They essentially either if they would like to be a part of the leadership team and lead the team, they sign that contract and then we notify the teachers and staff. So that's just an example of one system that we have in place when we are choosing our leader for our grade levels.
So follow-up question with that. In terms of the survey, is that sort of the staff raising their hand to say, I want to be a part of this?
That's one of the questions that we do include in the survey, if they are interested in becoming the team lead and what are some of those characteristics that they would bring to the team.
Right on. Talk to me about the contract. Like, why do you do that and what's on it?
I think the clarity, you know, just being clear on what's expected of the role and the responsibility of being a team lead. It's not just you're the loudest one on that grade level or you've been there the longest. There are expectations, you know, and a lot of times the team lead isn't someone that wants to pursue being a school leader. They're someone who is a strong instructional leader. They're very confident when it comes to strategies and practices with communicating with parents, and even systems within their classroom. So someone that can take what we're pushing forward for the vision of the school and the direction we're going and really, push that to their team. And again, it's really being efficient and effective with your time, because just with I think we have close to 700 students now at our campus. And so up until this last year, I didn't have an assistant principal. And so I just had, she was my magnet coordinator.
Okay.
And so it was very tough, and I think just there's certain things when it comes to safety, communication with parents, just involvement in general. And you have to have people that are on the same page as you.
Right on.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little more about culture and also part one of the framework, trust and relationships. It's so key. And a lot of leaders that I support are always thinking about, like, how do we build those relationships, right? If people don't think you care, right, that's a problem. And in my view, I have an assertion that your staff want to answer two questions. One, am I competent? Am I doing a good job? And two, do I belong here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that's that trust, that relationship, and the culture. So any gems or bits of wisdom you want to share around building culture?
I mean, from my experience, being still a novice, I'm going into my third year, like I said, as a principal, is being in the work and being present, being visible. And that's so difficult to do because you do have such a visibility guilt at times when you have to get stuff done and there's deadlines. Sure. But being in the work has made the biggest difference on our campus because there's constantly being something thrown, at us coming from the top all the way down. And we have to, have teachers do XYZ. And if we're in the work doing XYZ with them, then it goes a lot smoother and it's a lot more effective, and there's just buy-in, and they do definitely feel very much a part of that change or that whatever it is. And then of course at the end you have to have, or along the way, to be honest, not even at the end, you have to recognize, you have to give them that recognition. So it's important.
You said something about a softball or a baseball.
Yes. So I have a background in sports.
Okay.
So I do a lot of my systems or practices or approaches are athlete minded. Yeah. And so the baseballs, and of course, we have the Astros. So sure. It's always kind of relative. But every staff meeting I write on baseballs, something that a staff member, every single staff faculty.
What do you write
meeting.
On the baseballs?
So I might do, 5 or 6 baseballs, and it's something that a staff member, and it can be from a front office clerk to a custodian. Dr. Perez has received baseballs. So it's really any staff member, and it's just something that I've caught them doing above and beyond that I don't tell them necessarily. I mean, I might tell them like, wow, I appreciate you doing this, but I'm not saying you're going to get a baseball for this. So it's a surprise for everybody. And, it also works on our hand-eye coordination.
Sure. Watch out.
Yeah.
We do
baseball.
We had a couple staff members that were pregnant. So it was like a handoff.
Yeah, it's a handoff. Be safe.
It's definitely an underhand, slow pitch baseball. But it's, things like that. And I love walking around to classrooms and seeing teachers and staff line up these baseballs over the years. Yeah, so I've done this since my first year in their, by their desk. Or
I was curious if they displayed them.
Yeah, I think
myself included. Yes. I have them on my office.
Yep.
I have like 6 of them. Yep.
And you can just I take a picture, I put it on our platform that we share with our community, all of our information, and the parents comment on it. I put it on my social media. I just make a big deal of it.
Right.
Because they've gone above and beyond. And it's a lot of times, to be honest, it's not something that I've asked or someone's asked of them. So they've just stepped up. And I think that's what, I love about the culture that, I've created at the school is it's very much it's an us, it's our campus. It's our school. So.
What do you think it is about the environment that people step up in that way? Because you said it's something that, that I haven't necessarily asked them to do, but here they are, right? In doing it. And you also frame that in the context where I know that a lot of staff, it's like, hey, if it's not in the contract hours.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
But here you are, you have people going above and beyond. So we definitely want people to steal.
Absolutely.
Or replicate what you're doing. So tell me more.
The feedback that I've received, because I'm very reflective, I try to be very reflective and asking, one-on-one with a lot of the leadership team members when there are new initiatives or changes. And a lot of the feedback that I've received is just the transparency that I have as the campus leader, because yes, there's things that I may not fully disclose, right? It out of good reasoning, it might cause chaos. But I give them all the information that they need. So there's no surprises, it's already hard work. But I think that us being an IB world school, so an international baccalaureate school, we have our learner profile characteristics. And two of the main ones that I really push at our staff are being a risk taker. So it's okay if you fail, but you're never going to grow if you don't take those risks. And then also just being open-minded. We live in this world of constant change and evolution. And so just being open-minded. And I think that it goes back to our hiring, now entering, I think I've said it probably too many times. You're probably tired of me saying it, Dr. Perez, but I feel like going into year 3 now, like I finally have the staff, like 65 staff members that are there with the vision that I have for our school, and they're there for kids. They're there, and it's okay if they have to work 5 minutes extra.
That's right.
Absolutely.
They're going to do it.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. I'd love to tell you, can I share a story about
Please.
staff recognition? So this might be something for you all to steal, and something for the listener to steal as well. But probably, it's okay if you don't, I don't really care, right? Do you have like a staff member of the month award type of thing or anything like that?
We do an IB teacher of the month.
Okay.
Yeah. So similar.
How do they get chosen? Tell me a bit about your process.
Nomination
From who?
Other staff members.
Okay.
But one thing that I talked about is including students in that as well.
Yeah.
Because the students are very, very honest, and they have good opinions.
They are. They tend to have that honesty.
Yeah.
So here's what's worked really well for me, and something that I've taught and been a proponent of. So you have your regular staff member of the month award, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something that we did at schools I've been a part of is align the award to your what I call sticky core values, right? So your 3 to 5 things that are crucial and foundational in your building. Include everybody on the staff on that survey. So not just teachers, counselors, but cafeteria, bus, main office, all of that, right? And then the other thing that I did differently maybe than some other school leaders, staff could nominate, students could nominate, so you're on the right path. Parents and community members could nominate also. And they can nominate as many people they wanted, right, per month. So that's all cool and not very groundbreaking yet, right? They would pick the teacher or staff member, I should say. They'd pick the core value, then open-ended, like how did they live it out, right? And then finally, an open-ended, anything else you want us to know, right? So we got some really good data. And of course, the person who nominated, they put their name on there too. Now, we had a culture team. They would go through all the responses. They would vote. Somebody would win the award. And then we did something super silly, which is there's, like Great America and those amusement parks, right? We got just a massive pink gorilla, right? And when that showed up in your classroom with crazy music and dancing from administrators, you knew that you won. That's still not that different or groundbreaking. Here is the secret. Then you pay your mom to go through the spreadsheet because tons of people have been nominated, right? And so even though there's only one staff member of the month, right? Mom would take all the data, right? Like why people were nominated, create certificates, and I would print that out on really nice paper for everybody.
Who was nominated.
Yeah, you found me? So there was one winner, but really everybody was a winner, right? And some staff members found that they got nominated multiple times from different people. And just like the baseballs, all around classrooms, all around offices, and that kind of thing. The last thing I'll say about that process is that it also applies a bit of positive peer pressure because some staff members don't get nominated.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because there's some teachers it's like they hate kids. Sometimes it seems like that.
Seems like it.
You know what I mean? And when you get everybody else like these love bombs, let's say, or the nominations, and then some of your colleagues are like 0, what is going on? The other interesting thing, I'll end with this and then just see if you have any feedback for me. It was cool to see like security guard, some of the people that you might not assume would be best at building relationships with students. they tended to win quite a bit, right? So that was super cool. But any feedback or reflections for me on that process?
I really like the extra, right? Like it wasn't just, yeah, we all everybody's part of the nomination and there's a winner and it's tied to our core values. And that's kind of like you said, the basic, but it's almost random in a sense though with the pink gorilla, I will say. I feel like is a story for another
I like
time.
pink, right? What can I say? So.
But it's no doubt I pictured it the whole time you were talking about it, like bringing just joy and a smile, right? And it's a big deal and it's something to resemble it. It's not just announcing, hey, this person won.
Right.
So I really like that piece too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any feedback?
I really like how everyone gets that certificate. Everybody gets recognized. And it's just not the one person with the gorilla, but everyone has a sense of getting recognized for X, Y, and Z for whatever reason they were nominated for.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Cool. Thank you for that. So talk to me a bit about like learning networks and what feels supportive for both of you in terms of growing your leadership, right?
Dr. Perez, do you want to start since you are an aspiring principal? And I feel like, you might have that experience lately.
So can you repeat the question?
Sure. I'm just curious, like, how are you plugged into learning networks? What does that look like? And what's supportive as you're growing your leadership skills?
Well, in my learning networks, I have an amazing mentor, which is Dr. Calabrese. I see a lot of the systems that she has developed and I'm learning a lot. So it is essential to have systems, like we said, for everything. And as well as being that lifelong learner and always engaging in different types of professional development that will help you refine those skills, learn new things. Because again, a lot of the times we don't know what we don't know. So it's great being lifelong learners, seeking for that professional development and looking up to your role models, your mentors, different things like that. And as well as learning from your teacher leaders, leveraging their capacity as well. That way we're all growing together towards that same vision and mission and goals that we have as a campus. Hope that answered the question.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think if I can add on just real quick too, I think just going back to that risk taker, just putting yourself in those situations, because we can all read textbooks, we can go to conferences and we can hear and learn and read all about it. But until you actually get in there and do it, you're really not going to grow in the direction and the way that you want to grow. And so every step, every move, every decision that you make as a leader, I think needs to align to your purpose, your why, your vision, and everything like that.
Yeah, that's good for sure. How are you taking risks these days?
Taking risks.
I mean,
Dr. Perez
doing the
in
podcast.
Okay. Taking risks. I mean, I think for me, in professionally, being a part of a large school district that is undergoing a takeover, it's challenging because a lot of the changes, they don't pertain to my campus because they've grouped us now into different autonomy levels. And so since my campus is a very high performing campus, a lot that comes down the pipeline from upper leadership really doesn't align with our vision and just the work that we're doing on our campus. And so I think the risk taking comes in where I do have to manage up a little bit. And I do have to say, no, this isn't appropriate for my campus because we're doing, this already. And look at the data that shows, the culture is here. And so it's a risk. I feel like every time I have to do that, just because you never know, right? It's always just a ruffle feather situation. But at the same time, when there's data or if there's a reason, and I always tie it back to what's best for students, or it has to be safe and what's best for students. And so that's what like I said, you just have to stick to your beliefs and your core values and what's best for your campus.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is that at times the district's asking you to do things that might not be aligned with where you're going, or maybe you're past that, right? And now you're trying to achieve different things. And then you have to advocate, this isn't actually a good fit because you're offering a cookie cutter solution, but we're on a different path.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And part of the risk is, you said ruffle feathers. There's a lot of fragile egos. I know you two didn't say it. I'm going to say it, but there's a lot of fragile egos that work in central office. There's a really interesting book by Robert Greene called The 48 Laws of Power. Have you ever read that by any chance?
No.
It's on my list to read.
It's on your list to read. Yeah, it's really, really, really great. And the first law is don't outshine the master, so to speak, right? And I found myself testing that law before too, and probably getting burned in the butt on it. But sometimes I don't know why it happens that way, but central office is like, hey, we want the recognition, even though it should be about you. It should be about the staff and the students and what they're accomplishing, but you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of connecting
Absolutely.
with how you have to advocate, and it is a risk. So what does that look like, right? You know, when you're is it face to face, that phone call? Have you done it over email? What do you see to be most effective when leading up and advocating for yourself?
I definitely think a face to face is always best. I've learned that. And that's something that is intimidating, of course, I think for anybody, let alone, you know, a new leader on a campus. But asking them to come, hey, I need, 15 minutes of your time to talk about this one thing. And I think even if it's, hey, can we jump on a Teams? I consider that somewhat face-to-face. It's not fully, but it's better than a phone call or an email. But yeah, I think it's just using the data, right? Like if it's, for example, to
tell the story.
Yeah. If it's last year, if it's a certain curriculum that they're wanting every single school to use to the T, right? Following a curriculum every day, everybody's doing the same slides. But you have a campus like ours that the students, more than almost half, are gifted and talented. We have our IB curriculum that we're using as well that, we've been IB for over 15 years now, and we have certain curriculum waivers that we've always had. And so knowing that this is who we are at our campus and it's worked, having to just take that time, pull the leaders in and explaining that to them, because it's not that they don't want us to continue to do the IB. It's they don't know, right? And so I think it's just taking that time and prioritizing. Hey, instead of saying, hey guys, to my staff, hey guys, we're going to have to do this curriculum. That's what they said. It's no, this is not what's best for our campus. This is not what's made us successful and what's worked. And it's going to completely change our culture. And so I think just what we ended up, and it's kind of like that happy medium. It's not going in with this iron fist, like, no, we're not doing this curriculum. It's the conversation, I think. Sure. And the data to back it up, but also being, I have to be open-minded as well. I work for the district. Our school is a part of this district. And so we found that happy medium, and we're able to use this curriculum piece by piece as needed. Right. And so it did help us, and it supported our curriculum that we already had. So I think it's just those conversations that people like to call them difficult or crucial conversations, but it's just a conversation. Right. Yeah.
Listen, you signed up for this too.
Absolutely.
When you're a leader, there's no way around the difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
Can we go back? Like, I didn't want to lose the thread. It was a while ago we spoke about the transparency, right?
Yes.
That's helped build trust and relationships. So conceptually, me, the listener, we get transparency, but can you bring us to a moment where you were actually transparent with your staff? Like, break that down. Like, what was that?
There was a complete change in our attendance policy in the district last September. So school had just started.
And this was a district like initiative change.
The whole policy, yes. So it was very clear from the district that teachers get their 10 days for the year. And if they exceeded those 10 days, but they accumulate, right, over time. So we have some teachers.
This is teacher attendance.
Staff, but majority teachers is what they were really focusing on with this. And so, if you have a teacher that's taught for 5 years, never taken a day off, then they have 50 days, right? Because they get 10 days every year. But the district came in and said 10 days only is what you're allowed to take. And you cannot take them on a day before a professional development day. You cannot take them, a day before a holiday, those kinds of things, right? And those might have been in the policy. And I say might have because the policy was never just fully enforced. But when they put it out there and they were very strict on it, and teachers started to get fired around the district because they exceeded that amount and they were taking this leave and principals were approving it. And so, I think just being transparent with the staff in that moment on I'm here to work around you. I understand you have life things that happen. And one example I will say is a brand new 22-year-old first year teacher, kindergarten teacher, got severely sick. I mean, your first time in the schools, you're going to get the germs.
Yeah.
And so she was very sick and she didn't have any days left because her grandmother had passed away earlier in the year. And it was just, she was in tears in my office. Like, I don't want to get fired. You know, it's like, I don't have any more days. And so again, having the conversation with my upper leadership on, you're going to see me approve this day for her, but she's very ill. And again, it's just having those conversations and advocating. I could have easily been like, sorry, you're out of days, and just
good luck.
Yeah. But I think that
wear a mask.
Yeah, wear a mask. But I think that's an example of kind of a transparency. And now what it's formed on my campus is I have teachers come to me saying, hey, I've got this wedding coming up. You know, how can we work around this? There's a professional development day here and this and this. And so we kind of work through it together where they're going to be present according to policy, right? But I can protect them. But I think it's just being clear and being that support in that like thought partner through things, because in their mind sitting, you know, I put myself in their shoes, right? And in their mind, they're thinking like, just, I'm going to be fired, period. If I put in this absence. And so they come to me, and I think that that's been really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, Dr. Perez, as an aspiring principal, right? What's been something you've been learning recently that's been helpful?
That's been helpful. Well, in terms of the topic that we're talking about, transparency, I think that's one thing that I've learned a lot from Dr. Calabrese. Because a lot of the changes in the district, a lot of the teachers often become a little overwhelmed, very stressed, and you could feel it, you could sense it in the room. So being able to disseminate the information that's coming from the district in a manner that will help the teachers calm down a little, feel a little bit better, and just reminding them that because of the campus that we are at, since we're at such a high performing campus, a lot of the times, a lot of these new initiatives, they're not really going to affect us in such a manner. So being able to, like I said, disseminating that information in a manner that would help them calm that stress level down, because a lot of the times you do see it, you feel it. So being transparent, being understanding has been one of the things that I've learned from Dr. Calabrese, that I've seen her do it, because again, we've had a ton of district changes and we've had to present it in a way that it's positive.
Yeah. For sure. And, you know, here's the thing. If you're not transparent or skilled in communication, people make up the story.
That's right.
And it's never the story that you want to be told.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's why it's such a key piece there. And you were mentioning that there's something you say over and over again. I don't remember what the thing was, but I remember Jeff Weiner, the former CEO of LinkedIn, told me and many other people, your folks don't start to hear your message until you're sick of saying it.
Yep.
Right? So unless like you're green in the face and it's like, I can't say this one more time, they actually haven't even heard you, you know? So that's a little communication tip. So 3 years on campus, 3 years as principal. These are your first 3 years?
I'm entering my third year.
Okay. And, all right.
Yep.
Cool. So what's maybe been one of the biggest leadership lessons or epiphanies you've had as principal?
That it's okay to not know the answer.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one. It's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find the answer to it, and then doing what, you know, I need to do to get that answer. And I would say equally, though, it's a tie for what's the biggest thing I've learned, and my biggest takeaway is just loving your people and taking care of your people. It's hard work. So I think just loving on them, showing them I acknowledge the fact that you are a human being, or that you're a mother first, right? So those things I think have been huge and just really pivotal for my leadership, and
it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
Tell me more.
Well, I've been under of many leaders
Sure.
that have not had that type of mindset. And you are just a number. You are not a person.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times it's difficult to do the work when you're under that type of leadership versus when you're under someone who is understanding, is a people person, and values you as a human being. You are a human first. You're a mother first. You're a parent first. You're a sibling, XYZ. But it goes back to being that person that truly sees you as a human being.
Yeah.
Great.
Making those connections with you and building that trust.
Right on. Thank you. I'm curious. So you do coaching and mentorship, obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a coach or a mentor?
So I feel like I've had a couple. I've learned that it seems almost as if I have to kind of find that, right, myself. It's not something that's ever just going to show up on my doorstep on my campus. Like, I'm here to be your mentor. So again, through just connecting with people and taking those risks and putting yourself out there in conversations, I'm naturally more of an introvert. This job has forced me to be an extrovert, but in the best ways, because without me putting myself in those situations, I wouldn't be able to grow. So I think that if I were to say, I did have, so Teresa Campos was during my doctoral, and she's nodding her head because small world, she ran into her too and rubbed elbows with her.
Yep,
I know, small world, but she was a phenomenal, she's retired now, but she was a phenomenal mentor. And I mean, almost like a mother to me, and she was real. And she was, she didn't tell me the things that I, maybe wanted to hear as a first year principal. She was like, nope, you can't do that, or you have to do
you want
this.
to share an example?
I think going in with an iron fist was her term, because
She felt that you were
with a
going in
couple
that
of
way.
approaches that my first year as a principal, some things that I wanted to do that I saw right away as a first year principal. And she was the one that really advised me, get to know your people.
Yeah.
Maybe you should bring a dozen breakfast tacos and then have this conversation with that grade level. Just like the softening up some things. That was really helpful because I am very understanding and nurturing and kind. I want to be, but at the end of the day, we're there to get work done. Right. And so I do come across as direct a lot of times, and I've learned from her, as well as, others to, approach every situation still with kindness. Right. Even if it's a directive, right. Or something that is urgent and has to get done. So she's definitely been a mentor to me, and I'm grateful for her. And then, I think Dr. Perez mentioned this too, is learning just from anybody and everybody on campus. I just learned recently from our kitchen manager. Our kitchen manager taught me some things about safety when we had a safety walk that I was like, wow, yes, absolutely. And so we're going to bring her in now on our safety committee. And that was something that, so I don't call it necessarily like that a mentor. I just think just being open to learn from anybody and everybody has something to contribute.
Yeah, well, I think one of the ahas is that sometimes, listen, leaders, we're busy, and so we don't intentionally overlook people or opportunities, but sometimes just in the business, you miss the opportunity, and so being able to slow down and get feedback from somebody, I think you said in the cafeteria, right, around safety, and now that person's going to be a part of the team, really adds a lot of value, to the organization. Absolutely. So. Good on you for noticing that, right? And being open and receptive, to that. So I just want to shout out to the listeners, right? Obviously, NAESP, NASSP, I do it too, but there's a lot of different programs out there, right? For aspiring leaders or current leaders in terms of coaching and mentorship. And the thing that I always say is that it doesn't matter where you plug in, but get plugged in. Because the number one enemy of excellence is isolation, right? We're better together. I like to say too, when you get better, everybody wins, right? That's part of sort of the foundation of my thinking. So where I want to close, this is a risk, so you could just tell me to shut up if you don't want to do it.
Hey, I'm all for risk taking.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
As long as you don't ask me to sing.
What kind of music are you into?
What kind of music?
No. All right. Here was the risk. We're not going to sing.
Okay.
I was just curious. Is there a thorny issue or something you're facing right now that I can help you to process?
An issue at this time.
Or a goal you're trying to achieve, anything like that. And feel free to pass. You don't have to participate in this, and we could cut it out of the podcast too.
No, I think that, I mean, you say thorny issue, so that makes me think like, ouch, right? And almost like a poke. So not like a gigantic issue. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, there of course are. Of course there's thorny issues. I would say just, going into the school year 2 of this takeover, there's of the district, the state takeover, there's still a lot of uncertainty. And I know that I'm doing a lot of sense making with the community and with the staff. And I guess it's just kind of like a fear of an unknown, so to speak, of, we're implementing what we need to be implementing from the changes that are coming down to us at the campus level, the ones that are appropriate for our school. I just, you never know. And they always say, 3 years of data are going to show. And so, we've done a year of it and we noticed, a couple of changes in our data, not necessarily for the best. And so that is alarming a little bit to us. We're like, we want to still push these initiatives forward, but it is that thorn in my side of like, oh, I still want to do what's best for our campus.
Yeah, is it working?
And what we've been doing has been working. And so I think it's that constant pull of, do I go all in with this or do I, because it does get exhausting having to push back and say, in every single thing of, well, our campus is doing this and it's working. Our campus is doing this and it's working. So, because I'm very, I am an open-minded person and I welcome change. I do. And so I don't want to come across as someone who doesn't want the change, I never want to come across as that. So I think that's a little bit of a thorn, is the unknowns of the start of a school year coming up. Just a little bit of that. But that's, I think, every school year. Yeah. I think it's normal. Yeah. The start of a year.
So are you asking like how to handle that?
Yeah.
For you as a principal?
I think it's like, it's part of the decision making, but also how do you handle that when it seems like majority, I'm not saying every, majority of the things coming down of do this, implement this on your campus are not appropriate for our campus, given the performing, the high performance culture.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Well, you have done some pushback, right? So you already know how to do that. And you've mentioned that it's exhausting. So some of the times too is just figuring out how to play within the boundaries, right, that the district is creating. And there's always some wiggle room, within that. And I used to, in my second book called Mastermind Unlocking Talent Within Every School Leader, there's a concept that I teach in there called just like C work, like C-level work, right? Because as high performers, you like to turn in A-level work all the time, right? And you probably I'll just ask, do you give A-level effort pretty much to everything? Yeah. Especially as a newer principal. So some things that you're asked to do, right? Nobody ever looks at again.
It's like that low hanging fruit. Just do it so they don't see it, that it wasn't done.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's some things that you're asked to do, and you have to be wise about what those things are. But there's some things that it's okay to do C level, D level, F level work on, and just turn it in.
Do you have an example?
Well,
I'm trying to understand.
But this is my point of view. So I want to be clear about that. I'm not saying it's NAESP or NASSP. Right. This is Danny's point of view. I've seen a lot of school improvement plans, so much effort, so many hours within the meetings, right? And schools are notoriously terrible at strategy. I don't even want to guess how, your strategic plan, how many pages it is and how realistic, right? Simplicity is velocity, right? Simplicity is perfection as well. So sometimes with school improvement plans, nobody's looking at them. This is my lived experience. Again, my perspective. Is it really a guiding document at your school or not? And that's for you to decide. But that would be an example that I give. where it might just be something I've turned in, looks good, it's 1,000 pages, and now we're going to do the work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but I am a ruckus maker,
Yeah.
right? This is, you know, who I am. And so the advice I'm giving out, take it with a grain of salt. I don't even know if this will make it in the show. I hope it does. But that's up to Ned over here. So he's not pointing at me with any type of fingers. So I think that's a good thing.
With any fingers. Just a thumbs up, maybe.
Just maybe a thumbs up. The other thing too, with like uncertainty and unknowns, you know,
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah.
It sounds
In
silly.
and out, but breathe in and out. You have to exhale.
I'm really into mindfulness meditation.
Yeah.
I'm being trained as a 2-year certification process, right? And I also had on my show this guy, Eric Potterat. Eric Potterat wrote a book called Learned Excellence, right? He's worked with the LA Dodgers. So they're not the Astros, so forgive me, but they're okay. He's worked with the U.S. women's soccer team. So good team, right?
Yes.
And he's worked with the Navy SEALs. So these are all high-performing organizations. And I had him on the show. And so I was like, what if we were working together, right? Or just help me be a better coach and mentor. What's the one thing you teach?
Yeah.
He said, I teach people to breathe, right? So a lot of times, like, not that you have any difficult staff or crazy parents, right?
No, we never do.
No. But he said, you know, when you're walking into that high stakes meeting, right? And you're nervous, there's the unknowns and how you're going to do all this stuff. Focus on your breath just for a minute, right? And if you can do like a 6-second breathing in, and then don't hold. Some people teach that. It's not natural. We don't hold our breath after we breathe in. But breathe in for 6 seconds and then actually exhale for 8, right? I think that's like 6 or 6.5 breaths per minute. My math could be wrong, but it resets your nervous system, right? And so it's just a little hack, but especially when we're dealing with ambiguous and uncertain situations, it can ground you, you know? And help you, I think, identify like the big picture, what really matters versus all the stuff that's coming your way on those 87 pages.
Right. And what you can control.
Yeah.
You know, what you can't control, what you can.
Totally. That's a great one, right? What's within your grasp, what's without. So yeah, appreciate that so much. The other resource I'll share is just one called Navigating Ambiguity. So that's a book out of the Stanford D School. I forget the author's name. But just for yourself or for your staff, because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? For everybody. And they have a number of just super practical exercises. I don't remember them, so I'm not going to try to share them right now with you, but it's a good resource to check out.
So that one would be appropriate for any like staff too, like staff and leaders.
I think I would recommend the leader read it to have some tools in your toolbox. So when staff are freaking out, or when you notice you're freaking out, you know, what's some ways forward, right? Here's the last thing I'll add, and then I want to wrap up with you two. But do you know how to win a game show? Any game show. It could be Jeopardy or Family Feud or whatever. Do you know the secret?
What's the secret?
The secret is to buzz in before you know the answer, right? So like Family Feud, 100 people, blah, 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 favorite food, you know, da-da-da. People that are thinking, they lose. But the person who slams the button immediately and then thinks, right, they win. What's the aha with that for you?
Just jump in.
Just jump in. But why?
Because you're never going to be ready for anything. You have to jump in.
Yes. Do you have anything to add to that?
I was just thinking more like time too. Like your time. I mean,
that's a good point, right? Because sometimes we're just like mulling over it for so long.
Time sometimes. Yeah.
Or you don't have time. You need to make decisions. Yeah. Good. Because you just take that step, you're going to figure it out, right? And most things won't completely break a system, a school, or whatever, right? And you were talking about taking risks, learning from failure. There's no such thing as failure. There's only learning if you're reflective as you are, right? So I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know about you two, but what was maybe like your highlight or top thing from what we've discussed today? There's no right or wrong.
I know.
We'll end it there.
I think just sticking to like your core values and sticking to not just me as an individual, but like every decision that's made, every conversation that's had, any change that comes down the pipe is, we have to put students first, what's best for students. So if I have to jump in and make that quick decision, students and their safety, and I think just always coming back to grounding myself in that. And gosh, using our people, using your people, use your people. So
Right.
I think that's important for everybody. You can't be on an island, cannot be on an island.
That's right. You cannot do it on your own. That's one thing that I've learned for sure, to lean on those around you, because again, you're there for a purpose, and let's push forward.
I love that you said that. So get connected, right? That's a big message that we've been sharing here. And I'll end with, ideas are great, but not the greatest. The only thing greater than an idea is taking action. So I hope that this show was inspiring and you learned some lessons. But if you were just entertaining, you don't do something with the concepts that we spoke about, then it was a waste of all of our time.
Absolutely.
Take action. Action's everything. All right.